Hello, everyone. My name is Platt Color. Welcome to some sort of podcast thing. I know it was a suggestion that many people wanted, kind of the podcasty type of video, so I figured may as well try one out. And I figured in order to do the background visuals, I would go ahead and do some gameplay for some games that have also been requested. Kind of a two birds, one stone, different sort of format from other podcasts, I imagine. I'm sure it's not really a fully original idea, but it'll work for what I'm going for, I guess. The game I chose to play for this was one that I did in a previous sort of commentary one where I was complaining about TikTok. People took general offense to the fact that I was insulting their favorite platform, but that's fine. Playing Minish Cap. Minish Cap from the Legend of Zelda series. This was actually a Game Boy Advance game I didn't have growing up for the most part, and then I found it one day, and by found I mean I was rummaging through probably my older brother's old game collection and just nabbed it, put it in my DS Game Boy Advance slot, and tried it out and thought it was fun. I'm pretty sure that's also how I discovered Metroid Fusion, was when I borrowed it and then, well, I guess borrowed indefinitely. I'm I'm not trying to like just take people's random things, okay? That's not what I was doing, okay? I was just testing it out and they never got it. I don't encourage that behavior though, so don't do that. But yeah, this is just the intro sequence for it. But I figured I would talk about pretty much whatever, anything, and then if I am not sure what to talk about, I'll start talking about the gameplay footage, because I'm kind of watching it back as I'm playing through. But recently I got an idea for a possible, I guess, business venture, which would be pretty interesting. Getting more into my old carpentry that I used to do. I used to do a lot more carpentry. I was really fascinated with doing all sorts of woodwork. I even learned special techniques and whatnot from reading all these guides and books and whatnot. I thought they were really cool. I even got a chisel set and some new wood, some scrap wood as well for just like testing projects and whatnot. But one thing that someone brought up to me, my oldest sister, she made the comment that dog kennels. This is a very strange topic to talk about, I know, but dog kennels all seem to look pretty much the same. They just kind of look like cages, or they just look like those like plastic bottom and then plastic top, and then they have the metal grate for the. Yeah, so some people really like the hipster stuff, right? They don't like doing the mainstream, right? They don't want to go for cages and whatnot. They want to go for something that looks nice, just something that is a nice, pleasant piece of furniture to look at on top of the practical function of being able to house your pet. And she showed me some examples of what people were making. Some clown on Etsy decided to put just a slab of stained wood on top of an existing metal crate, and that was all they did. And they were selling it as legit furniture, and that almost kind of got me mad, because I was like, you didn't put any effort into this. Any moron can do that, right? All you have to do is buy piece one, buy piece two, and put one on top of the other. That's not building furniture, okay? That's just being an absolute hoodlum and then charging $700 online to unsuspecting victims who think it's cool. Newsflash, buddy, I don't think it's cool. but it doesn't really matter because I don't even own a pet. But I thought something like that would be interesting, where I made custom types of furniture um, that meet certain functionality, but hopefully also being, more affordable. Because looking at some of the stuff they were selling on the site that my sister was using, my lord, they could probably sell one of those per month and be set for the rest of the month. Just that's it. They would sell one item per month and be fine. I find that absolutely wild. Um, some of them, granted, were a little bit more intricate than others, but some of them were simply they were able to get a monopoly on it because they use a technique that requires steaming and warping of the wood, which is not really achievable in a whole lot of shops that don't really have that, right? You have to have this whole setup where you like superheat the wood in order to like bend it pretty much. That's how they're able to get those like round kind of corners of flat pieces of wood. Because it's not like they just did that with a jigsaw. No, those round cuts are more easy to obtain. But the ones where they just like bend the whole plank of wood, that's a little bit harder to do at home, as it turns out. So, I don't know, it's just something interesting I wanted to do. Maybe making some of my older designs and some of my newer designs for ergonomic furniture. Um, and then I can upholster it with, maybe either fake leather or a comfortable kind of fabric, and then foam and whatnot, so it's comfortable to sit on. Um, I remember one of my first pieces of woodworking was actually an Adirondack chair, which definitely served its purpose. Unfortunately, some hoodlums were driving around in their truck, and they decided to steal it from our front porch, which really sucked. They nabbed it from our front porch, loaded it back into their truck, and then drove off, but those morons didn't even bother to secure it properly in their truck. So this is just, I don't want to say this is a lesson, like you should take this information and actually use it, but if you're committing a crime, don't be so stupid where you forget to secure the thing that you're stealing. That just seems like common sense, but I guess not. But anyway, yeah. So they didn't secure it, so they were, hauling it through the neighborhood, and it, well, fell off their vehicle at high speed. And as it turns out, that's not good for chairs. So it damaged the chair pretty badly, and they just left it because they ruined the thing that they were stealing. So what's the point in stealing something that's kind of broken anyway? But it was honestly very sturdy. So I'm impressed that they were able to break it just by trying to steal it. We were even able to sit, I think, 3 people on it, totally fine, even though it exceeded like the recommended kind of like weight limit, right? It still handled all the weight quite fine. Um, just painted it white, but it had this interesting ergonomic design that I've kind of based some of my stuff on, for the designs that I've made. Um, but the interesting part about it is, even though it didn't have any sort of like, like a cushion or anything to sit on that was like nice and soft, um, it was still a very relaxing chair to sit on, which is why my mom was honestly more upset than I was when it broke, because someone tried to steal it from our porch. Uh, she was more upset than I was because she used it like all the time. That was just part of her routine. I think part of her morning routine, I don't know, I didn't wake up early enough to see it. Oh, that was a nice dodge. Huh, neat. Yeah, I just got distracted by watching the gameplay. I don't know about you, but personally, I like watching the gameplay, eh, even if it's somewhat mediocre at points. Anyway, going back to the chair. Yeah, it was just a nice piece of furniture, and it was bulky, so it was hard to get home. But made it in wood shop. Um, Everything from learning how to 3D model to get the measurements and whatnot. That was also part of the curriculum, which I thought was really cool. Unfortunately, we didn't mess around with it enough, in my opinion, to really get as much out of it as we probably could have, because those skills would have probably helped later on, being able to make kind of 3D models in a software kind of environment. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting project. The other one that we did was was just of a birdhouse. It wasn't one of those simple 90-degree cut kind of birdhouses, though. No, no, no. It was an interesting kind of like curvy design, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, I decided it was going to be like a Christmas gift or something, so I, painted it accordingly because it was going to be a gift for that kind of thing. And the way it was designed was not so that you would hang it up, but so that you would put it on like a porch rail. Um, it had this like weird gap in between the face and the back, where you would set it on top of the porch rail, and it would just kind of chill there. So that was pretty neat. So I didn't have to modify it to make it so they could actually hang it up. So that was nice. Yeah, other than that, just a few other wood projects here and there. I've even gotten into some like kind of intricate wood burning stuff before. I know my mom, she wanted me to make like an advent calendar because the old one got thrown out because my parents were freaking out because Santa exists, so it must be burned at the stake. Yeah, a kind of a weird thing. I don't know if any of your parents ever dealt with this, but if you were in like a super, like kind of wacky family, wacky in a bad way, um, they would say just crazy stuff all the time, like acorns are of the devil or some garbage like that. I remember my stepdad even said, if you rearrange the letters of Santa, it says Satan, therefore it's of the devil. And then I'm just sitting there thinking, you are a complete idiot. You realize that Santa is just another language, right? It just means saint. It's Saint Nickel. Whatever. Just completely stupid. Anyway, that's why we threw out the old advent calendar, because it had imagery of Santa on it. Now, snowmen, snowflakes, it basically imagine like if Santa represented in my family like toxic masculinity, we basically from that point onward had to have a gender neutral Christmas. Even though it was freaking weird. It's like you realize you're using pagan imagery anyway, so like you're kind of being a little bit silly, freaking out over Santa, who is actually like a saint or something like that. I don't know. Getting a little off topic, but anyway, made an advent calendar where I burned some all these different little tags that you would hang on this like nativity scene kind of thing that I made. So that was pretty neat. My mom loves to brag about me with it. She'll show pictures to anyone who like, basically at the drop of a hat, she'll just show you pictures of it and be all like, "Look at what my son did," which I find kind of epic. But it's not like I have like a business or something in that yet. But I've made all sorts of wacky things, including like this dog toy kind of thing, where I think, yeah, no, that actually is a piece of pet furniture that I made. So, what my parents wanted was some sort of thing that held the dog toys, because they were always all over the floor, and then at the end of the day, if we had any time to pick them up or whatever, we'd put them in this like really tiny basket that couldn't hold like half of them, and so it would just pile up, and then the little freaking dog would cause mischief and just make a mess again, basically the second that we stacked it all up, because he's like, ooh, fun pile for me to mess with. Um, they wanted me to make something where he would basically have to like almost go inside in order to get his stuff, if that makes sense. So I made this like box where the entrance was like a cutout of a paw, and I was never able to finish it before moving out. And let's just say I'm at a point where it's not really comfortable going back there. Um, let's just say my mom's moved out, right? But anyway, yeah, so that was an interesting piece of pet furniture that I've made already. So, I guess that'll be my reference, is an incomplete work. Um, I guess going back to this gameplay real quick, one thing I really liked about the Minish Cap was it feels good to play it quickly, if that makes sense. Some games, they don't feel as satisfying if you play them like super fast and whatnot. You feel like you're missing out on a whole bunch. But with this one, not so much. It feels pretty good to time your rolls just so, where you don't end up slowing down. It's completely off topic, but it's just satisfying, and looking at it without the slowdowns, those are satisfying to look at. Also, I love how quickly you're able to spam the B button. It's one of my favorite things. Anyway, so what else is there to talk about? Oh, well, recently, been playing a bit of Phasmophobia, which, really fun game. Um, just been kind of goofing around with it. I do have some complaints about it, and my friends pretty much share the same complaint, although we don't really act accordingly afterwards. But anyway, the one complaint we have is that if you guess the ghost correctly, you only get $10. Whereas you can literally go in there, take a picture of a bone, and then just leave and not even make a guess, and you'll still get $10. So it seems a little silly to me. I feel like it should be, I don't know, $5 for each correct guess of evidence, and then an additional $10 if you guess correctly. That sort of thing, right? That's just how I see it. Anyway, I was grinding that game last night. Was on a phone call with a coworker, and by coworker I mean, well, ex-coworker. I don't really work there anymore. Um, but even though I don't work at that company anymore, and even though it kind of sucked the life out of me, I still really liked the owner of the company. So I decided, just as like a little bit of a parting gift, afterwards I was going to construct a very detailed letter, um, with certain concerns with the company, as well as potential but also specific solutions to all those problems. And I'm just kind of hoping that he reads it. I mean, he's a great guy from all the interactions I've had. But I have my reservations on whether or not he's actually going to see or even read the letter if he gets it, um, or if he's even going to care, really. Because it seems like one of those jobs where all they want to do is coast and never improve, which was one of my biggest complaints, was the fact that there's no vertical growth after you make supervisor. Sure, you could make head supervisor, um, if the current head supervisor were to quit or move on. Unfortunately, even if he got like I don't know, like a formal complaint from the owner, he wouldn't be able to read it because I am convinced this man cannot read or write. Which is kind of problematic in a job where half of your job is observing and reporting, writing reports. He's made many unprofessional comments, um, and then he'll harp on us about not being professional, which I find a little bit silly. He just kind of created a very toxic environment. Unfortunately, in my letter, I didn't cover the fact that he is a horrible head supervisor. Um, Maybe I should have mentioned it, but then it would have sounded a little too passive aggressive. Yeah, that's the only reason I didn't mention him by name. I even took him out of the examples that I was listing in the letter, because I was like, no, he wouldn't even do this correctly, even if they did implement this. Which is unfortunate. I kind of feel bad for some of the guys who still work there. And then for some of them, um, well, they're kind of incompetent, honestly, not gonna lie. Now that I'm not working there anymore, I have no problem sharing this information, but when a guy can't wrap a chain around a fence and use a basic master lock, when you don't know how to operate a lock and you work for a security company, you can see how that's probably problematic. Yeah, that's the future, folks. We're gonna maybe the movie Idiocracy wasn't entirely far off. I could totally see that happening. Like if, for example, TikTok. I almost said Tic Tac. Yeah, if TikTok took over education and everyone just decided to chase clout instead of education and innovation, um, yeah, I could legit see Idiocracy actually happening. Um, and then the only people left who would be smart would be the rich a-holes who know how to exploit people. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but is what it is. And by is what it is, I mean you shouldn't be satisfied with that either, and so we should be making changes to fix that. Oh, okay, so this worm boss, it actually kind of got me a little bit mad because I was trying to mash the B button, but I forgot that he had like a timer, and if you hit at the wrong spot, you'll just bounce off of him. That was just annoying. Yeah, normally I think you can either like two or one cycle him. Yeah, see, I only got one hit in because I bounced off the freaking web on the wall. Yeah, and then I bounced off of his back because I hit him like one frame too early. Whatever. It's a good thing I wasn't doing a speed run. And if I were doing a speed run, one, there would be a timer, and two, I would have actually completed the game. Yeah. In order to complete the game, I would probably, in one sitting, I mean, in order to complete the game in one sitting, I'd probably have to use this glitch called like the Ocarina glitch. But it doesn't seem like it would make it a fun speed run. I honestly would just prefer to play the game normally, which is why I pretty much do. Um, you will see later in the video, though, I do some interesting tricks, and then sometimes I intentionally mess it up so you can see what the trick looks like without me taking advantage of it, so you can see how it's supposed to be done, kind of thing. Yeah, so if you're interested in Minish Cap at all. What else is there to talk about, really? Well, out of work, certain plans that I have made. Well, I guess I'm just excited for Friday. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to be meeting a lot of really freaking weird people um, at that convention in Denver. Um, I've been working on the costuming and all that, which is pretty fun. Honestly, I didn't think that costuming would be as fun to work on as it was, but well, if it was, um, it's fun to kind of like dress in those things, and for some people, it's about getting into character and acting like an animal, which I find a little bit strange, but to each their own. Um, I always thought that animation was weird with the web. Whatever. I forgot how annoying Eslo can be at points. I mean, he's nowhere nearly as bad as some of the other assist characters in other games. Some find him charming, and on my first playthrough, I did as well. But when I was just trying to get to the real fun parts of the game, and he kept interrupting, I thought it was pretty annoying. But, you know, um, still, he's got some character to him, which is nice. Not just a blank character with zero emotion or anything. Speaking of which, Skyward Sword, yeah. Um, I've done so many recordings of that game. Um, I play all the way until I've beaten the first dungeon every single time I try to record that game. And when I recorded it, it was like you haven't seen these videos yet, and this is why. So I would play the game, get the recording, and everything seems fine. The test recording worked out just fine, just making sure that the audio was balanced. And then I go to actually do the recording, and what do you know? Every single time I did it, something went horribly awry. uh, it was so annoying. Whether it was like just really, really bad gameplay and commentary, which I was completely dissatisfied with, because I need to be in a certain mood when I'm recording. And I even knew going into it, it was like, I'm not really feeling it, but maybe I'll be able to kind of just like push through and motivate so I can, make a new video, and it'll still be interesting because there will still be content to it and whatnot. But nah, I went against my gut instinct of maybe I should wait. Didn't wait, and ended up paying for it because watching it, it was so freaking boring. Watching the commentary, my goodness. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm more of a dry humor kind of guy. I'm not really into the in-your-face, loud equals funny, Minecraft equals funny kind of guy, right? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it really is. It really can be, but not really my style, if that makes sense. I want it to be me if I'm gonna put it out there. That's how I treat any art, really. If it's not me, I'm not gonna put it out there and pretend it is. Um, yeah, so that recording was a bust. And then I finally got in the rhythm of it, and I'm like, all right, I'm in a really good mood. Let's get into it. I'm gonna be super upbeat and hype. Well, maybe not hype, but I'm excited to play, and this is gonna be fun. And I'm in a good mood, and that'll just make watching it back a lot better. Because I can tell when a video is going to be good if, even while editing and watching it over and over and over again to make sure that the editing is at least up to par, if doing that I still don't get bored, then I know it's going to be probably a good video. Not just for me, but maybe other people as well. But that's kind of how I gauge it. So yeah, all the stars were aligned, and all I had to do was just make sure that the recording was nice, and I finished recording, and I'm like, wow, I'm really satisfied. I feel really good about that. had good commentary, skillful gameplay. I was really into it this time, and then, well, it kind of just went very south very quickly as I decided to play back the webcam footage first, which is where I was recording the audio, because what I always do for videos like that, unless it's a voiceover, I record the face cam and mic audio separate from the game capture, which is what I really like about the game capture device that I use. However, the problem arose with the software I used to record the face cam and microphone audio. What ended up happening was I accidentally forgot to turn off the system audio for it, because usually what I'll do to make sure that no noise is coming out of my laptop, I'll just plug in my headphone but leave the headphones off so that no audio will come from the laptop. And that generally prevents, any leaking of the noise into the microphone. Other than like stuff from the TV, but that just kind of helps me sync it up so it doesn't really. Well, the problem came from the fact that it was capturing the game audio as well as my microphone audio. So, the game audio, as it turns out, was complete ear rape, and you couldn't hear a darn thing I was saying in the footage. So it rendered the 2 hours and some odd minutes of face cam and all that pretty much useless because I can't separate that audio if it records double. So it recorded in the game capture, but it also recorded in the software, which is a big problem. And that's why that recording didn't work. There was another recording that I wasn't really satisfied with, so I also got rid of that one. My fridge is being really loud right now. I really hope you can't hear that, but if you can, I apologize. Can't really control what ambient noises are happening during the day, like if there's a kid screaming in the hallway, or some parent yelling at their child in the parking lot, which sometimes I find just super funny. That not because like the kid is crying and I have some sort of sadistic pleasure out of kids' misfortune, but because they'll yell at them for the funniest things, and then the kid will get like upset that they're being dumb. It makes for interesting kind of like background noise, but not noise I would want in a video. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just freaking weird. I don't know. Probably, honestly. I mean, the fact that I'm going to that convention probably should signify that something's a little wacky wonky in my brain arena, but whatever. But yes, so going back to the gameplay real quick, I have completed the first dungeon of the game, and I already have 5 hearts because I remembered 4 locations early game where there are heart pieces, so that's nice. This is kind of interesting. I didn't have to jump over that abyss pit thing. Literally the only reason you do it is to get inside that Minish house, but you can also just bomb that block thing that I just did. The game wants you to jump over the abyss because it's all like, look, there's a mushroom. You were pulling on these things like 3 seconds ago. You can literally just walk around and not waste bombs. I was just doing that because I wanted to show like the intended route that the game developers probably wanted. And then I bombed this little wall kind of thing here, just for later, just to make it easier, open up the path. Yeah, because it's still blocked off, but it'll be open for later. Although I'm not entirely sure what the construction guys are doing, because honestly, you don't see any difference over the course of the game, which I find kind of annoying. Yeah. bomb drop. Wow, I'm kind of surprised at that. That's convenient. Um, so after beating the first dungeon, you go into Hyrule Town, and well, you get bombarded with a bunch of children and a creepy old man who gives you a sack, and he's all like, "Want to fuse?" And it's like, "All right," and you can't move until you finish. So, yeah, I think this is probably the weakest component to the Minish Cap gameplay mechanics, is the Kinstone kind of thing. It makes 100%ing the game, um, it really dissuades you from doing it, honestly, because the Kinstone side quest kind of stuff is just kind of annoying, honestly. Um, I kind of wish that they just made it like a dialogue kind of thing, as opposed to you have to have a specific magic puzzle piece to match their magic puzzle piece to make a chest appear or a door open somewhere else completely in a remote section of the map that you probably aren't going to go to for quite a bit. Um, yeah, I think it's the weakest component to the game. Um, oh, but this is actually one of my favorite parts to the game, is learning all the sword techniques. Because pretty much, I think all of them are pretty much optional except for the spin attack. The spin attack is the only one they require you to get. And you'll see why in the next one that I do. Um, Not in this video, because I know when this video ends, I don't get to that point yet, but oh boy. And then, okay, so these next few minutes, I'm debating whether or not I want to edit it out. I'll leave it in so I can get back to some random tangent talking about nothing and something at the same time. But the glitch I'm trying to do here is, I guess I forgot the setup, but basically what you do is you interrupt the animation where Link puts his hands back down like that. You interrupt that animation so he's still holding basically an invisible item above his head, because you put the item away at the exact same time that you like talk to the guy. So you're still holding pretty much nothing, but you're talking to him, and he's all like, "Oh, you want to buy that? Okay." And then you can purchase pretty much nothing. And what ends up happening is, when there is, I guess, like a null sprite, when there's like nothing to purchase, the default item that it gives you is the sword that I got at the beginning of the game, the Smith's sword that was supposed to be delivered to Hyrule Castle that now we're wielding because, you know, we got to keep it. Now, it's kind of interesting that in the Minish Cap, they had the sword delivery kind of thing. So you have a sword, but you're not able to use it because it's for someone else. You're just delivering it. And then they basically reintroduced that when they made, not Triforce Heroes, it was A Link Between Worlds, which was a recreation of A Link to the Past. A Link to the Past in the original, they didn't have like a sword delivery kind of thing. That's not how it started. But in A Link to the Past, they do, and that's pretty much based off of the sequence that happens in Minish Cap, where eventually you get to keep the sword, if I remember correctly. The sword you were originally going to deliver, but then they're all like, well, you can keep it because the person we were going to give it to doesn't need it, or, you know, they're evil. So, yeah, but here I'm trying with the shield now because I'm like, oh, well, maybe I just didn't have enough rupees, so the glitch isn't going to work. So yeah, all this time that I'm wasting on the screen is to get a glitch to work, and unfortunately, I'm just going to spoil it right now, I didn't get it to work, and I'm kind of kicking myself over that, but I spent way too much time, and eventually I just gave up and just said, I'll try it later. Yeah, because there's this weird like pause in his animation. Uh, yeah, it's just messy. It looks like I've moved on from it, but I think I'd go back and try again. No, I don't. Oh, I think I do after I clear the carpet or whatever. Anyway, going back to whatever tangent I was talking about. Um, yeah, just kind of chilling for right now. Not really worried about work or anything because I've saved up enough on top of VA disability that I get each month. So um, I'm not really worried too much about it. Um, Thankfully, I'm not too financially stressed right now, but unfortunately, I don't really have, well, pretty obviously, I don't have the same income anymore. Uh, but I did save up enough so that I could take kind of a longer sabbatical, if that makes sense. If you don't know what that is, it's basically like kind of a resting, reflective, meditative period of time in your life where you're not stressed about working or this, that, or the other. And I'm fortunate enough to have been able to budget enough where I'm able to do something like that. There are a lot of people out there, I think it's 80% of the working class. They live paycheck to paycheck, and it's really a startling and scary kind of thing to just see. It's a really depressing statistic. Um, yeah, it's I'm fortunate enough where I'm able to take a break from work. Um, but one thing, and it's not like I'm ungrateful for the pay I had at the end of my work and whatnot. But when I ended up leaving the company I recently worked for, I was making, I don't know, I was making, let's just say X amount of dollars per hour, right? I'm not gonna just start throwing around wages and trying to make people feel bad or feel really good about themselves or whatever. It's That's not the part that's important. What is important to understand is that I had worked there for a year, which is longer than pretty much 95% of the people who worked there. The turnover rate is absolutely abysmal at that company, and it's because of all the nonsense, because of the poor procedures, the lack of direction, lack of guidance, lack of care, and it really shows in how they conduct themselves. And then the guards, they have less motivation to do their jobs. And while that, I'm not going to excuse them for being lazy because that is a work ethic issue. I can almost understand the lack of care because that's the same thing that they receive when they actually do go above and beyond. Um, but I worked really well there. I got promoted to supervisor, um, which is interesting because at that security company, I was told repeatedly, you can't make supervisor unless you get your armed license. You have to be an armed guard. Otherwise, you're never going to get promoted to supervisor. You're never going to go up in this company. If you're an unarmed guard, you're always going to stay an unarmed guard, and that's it. But despite that, my performance and my work ethic and all that was able to show to the company owner himself that I was ready to take on additional responsibility and become a supervisor. And he promoted me and also gave me the new contract for, it was construction for some low income apartments. And it was an indefinite contract because after construction was going to be finished, we were also going to be the company in charge of the apartment security. It was a great location. We had good client relations. and he pretty much handed me the contract. He said, "This is your baby. I'm promoting you to supervisor. I know you're going to do a really good job, and I look forward to seeing more from you in the future," and all that stuff. It was very kind of almost touching moment when he believed in me despite the fact that all the other supervisors were telling me, "You'll never make it if you don't get armed." During the whole year that I worked there, I never got the ARM certification because I wanted it to be a more relaxed kind of job. I didn't want to go working at a bank and gas stations downtown where they have legitimate threats on a regular basis. Yeah, no. I don't want to force myself to also, like, buy a gun that I can use for that kind of job, just to not be able to pay it off unless I work there for an additional, I don't know, year or year and a half even. Because while you do get a raise for being armed and whatnot, if you don't have the proper gun going into it, you obviously have to buy one, get it registered, doing the whole process, doing the training. You're looking at probably around maybe $900, something like that, for a raise of maybe a dollar, and that's like a maybe. Otherwise, it's probably just a 50-cent raise. So, taking that into consideration, it was financially not worth it, considering from the get-go, I knew that that company was going to be essentially a temporary job unless that company expanded and there was more room for vertical growth, which there wasn't, which is pretty much why I left, on top of the nonsense. But yeah, they still was able to get the promotion and whatnot. But even after all the work I did, all the extra stuff I did, all the crimes I prevented or stopped, all the props I got for my excellent reporting skills and my ability to write a concise but also incredibly detailed report with all the necessary information. They never had to ask me follow-up questions for pretty much any of my reports, unless it was like an ongoing kind of problem with other guards. Yeah, after all that, leaving the company with the pay that I got, and then realizing that brand new guys were getting paid the same amount. In fact, the guy I trained on my last day, he was brand new, just joined, didn't have his ARM certification or training yet, and he was making $1 more per hour than I was after my year of training, working there, and being a supervisor. So, needless to say, the guy that I talked to who still works there, we've had a few conversations talking about how, well, obviously unfair that is. Because all he did was negotiate his kind of what he wanted to work for with BTS. And my software is glitching out right now. Hold on one sec. Yeah, that was kind of weird. The software just bounced all the way back to the beginning. I really hope it was able to record all that. Well, I'll find out in the editing process. Yeah, so how obviously unfair that was. And while he did intend to get his ARM certification, the surprising thing is, and I'm obviously not going to name any names or anything like that. I don't want anyone getting in trouble. Some of the guards were doing things they were not supposed to. But that new guy, he actually got his armed endorsement, his armed certification on his brand new guard card, despite the fact that he never completed training for being armed. which means that the job was probably going to start putting him on armed shifts, despite the fact that he was not legally able to, which is very concerning. And I have nothing against the guy. Like, honestly, the rate he was getting, I'm honestly proud of him for being able to negotiate something like that with the company owner. But yeah, that just goes to show knowing your worth and negotiating what you think you should be making is definitely a good asset to have. Unfortunately for me, it actually didn't work. Because your first thought may be thinking, oh, well, it's because he negotiated and you didn't. Well, I did, though. On multiple accounts, I would ask for a raise in order to even just stay at the company. Um, I would ask for certain amounts because when I first started, I was making about the same amount as probably some fast food workers. And while I was working at unarmed locations, I wasn't exactly working in safe or good neighborhoods. We were contracted there for a reason. Um, and while generally I was able to prevent any dangerous things from happening, I still had a fair amount of encounters that were, generally threatening. It's probably working at fast food or something like that. You probably don't get as many, I guess, serious death threats and people thinking that you're a cop for some reason. I didn't even look like a cop, which is what I found so funny, because it's like, well, you got the wrong uniform, so you're just confused. There's a very big difference between private security and local law enforcement, such as police officers. Completely different jurisdiction. For private security, they're only allowed to have the amount of jurisdiction that that they tout they have when they are within the property boundaries, right? Um, so if, for example, some fool were to steal like $300 from a gas station or something like that, and they had private security, one, the private security, well, damn, probably not doing his job if they're able to do something like that. But if it did happen, which it is possible, then as soon as that thief were to leave the property lines, well, at that point, if you were to keep chasing him, it'd basically just be like a normal dude chasing after the guy. You have no jurisdiction outside of the private property. That's why it's private security. Otherwise, there would be a lot of legal issues, obviously, because if your jurisdiction exceeded the boundaries of the property you're guarding, then obviously that sort of authority would be abused. Already, there are tons of guards who try to whip their thing out and try to assert their authority, which is I just found so funny. They're just on a power trip. And then sometimes people think that the guard is on a power trip and then they end up disrespecting them. So I also find that really annoying. I think in this clip in the video, I'm showing the little trick how to skip this whole section. Oddly enough, they don't really check what level you're on. You're able to suck the mushroom with the gust jar, no matter if you're on the level that they want you to be or the one below it. I don't think I ever really experienced too much disrespect while on the job. There were occasional points where, well, actually, yeah, so there was this one instance where this one chick, I made a video about her. She was basically an animal abuser. And she was mad at me for catching her, basically. And why was she abusing her animal? Oh, well, it was so that she could, avoid having to pay the $50 fee for pets at a hotel, which is just absolutely scummy. Um, Doing something like she did, just keeping her dog in the van, windows up, no AC or anything like that, and just leaving her dog in her van for hours on end until she finally decided to try and sneak it in around, I don't know, like 1 a.m. Yeah, she was mad at me because I caught her, and then she started freaking out. And she was mocking my authority or whatever, which, I got thick skin, so I kind of just kept laughing at her. It was a funny inside joke that I had with the front desk for the longest time. But I'm probably not going to be hanging out with those front desk people anymore. It's not that it's not worth it. It's more along the lines of we mostly hung out and had conversations because it was like a convenience kind of thing. We were just passing the time. It's not that we didn't enjoy each other's company. It was just that we didn't develop enough relations to have any sort of thing outside of work, if that makes sense. Like, you can get along with coworkers just fine. That doesn't mean you're gonna go out, have a few brewskis with them and whatnot. And sometimes that can lead to issues of like fraternization anyway. And hanging out with your coworkers and being all buddy buddy. Hanging out outside of work with coworkers can honestly be kind of a risky move. Because let's say you hang out with someone you used to go to work with, or you currently go to work with, and then turns out you don't like hanging out with them, or you have this really big, ugly argument. Well, you still gotta see him for work now. So, kind of runs into a bit of a problem there. You would hope that they would be able to uphold some professionalism there, but that's obviously not always the case. Some people aren't able to separate work from home, and then sometimes people are just like incredibly callous, so you don't want to hang out with them anyway. Oh yeah, so I think yeah, so this is the puzzle here with the bomb and whatnot. That's actually a reference to some mythology where it was like pretty much the same thing, where it was all like, oh, did you drop a silver or gold version of this? And then the farmer was like honest. He was all like, man, I dropped a rusty ass shovel in there. And then she's like, I like your honesty. Here, have the gold one, or have the magic one, or something like that. I think it had something to do with the golden apple. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been in mythology. I took it in high school, and I've spaced a lot of the information that I learned in high school because a lot of it was impractical, right? But it was still valuable to learn, in my opinion. Which sounds like a bit of a conflicting statement, right? I mean, you say, oh, well, I never used the information, so it wasn't really practical or anything like that. Well, here's the thing. There are all sorts of impractical things that you can learn, right? But those impractical little tidbits of information can inspire you to learn things that you otherwise probably wouldn't. It helps you discover those things. Maybe you have a hidden passion for this, that, or the other that you weren't aware of. And because you learn this super niche kind of thing, you're able to kind of tap into it when you get out. And, it's more for discovery. And then on top of that, also basic knowledge for all sorts of things. I find it funny when people complain about the education system and then they never actually, took part in it, so they just never tried or put in any effort. And it's like, okay, well, that's probably partially due to your work ethic. Because if you go in with the mindset of none of this information is valuable, I don't need any of this is pointless, why am I learning this? If you go in with that kind of mindset, of course you're not going to get anything out of it. Like, I mean, that should be kind of obvious, like when you say it out loud like that, right? But some people still treat it that way, which I find funny and sad at the same time. Um, you say it out loud and then it sounds kind of silly at that point, even. Like, yeah, it's just weird. Like some clown will be all like, "Yeah, no, I didn't learn anything in math class." And it's like, "Okay, yeah, well, did you spend your time learning the curriculum or did you spend all your time practicing drawing eyes in your notebook or something?" Don't get me wrong. You are still being forced to be there. So, I'm not saying you have to enjoy everything while you're in school. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't make the most of it, right? I mean, if you're already forced to be there, may as well make the most of it, right? Like, I guess that's kind of how it is for work and why people are all like, oh, I have a dream job or something like that. The reason they have a dream job is because it's like, yes, I understand the necessity. I need to have a job, otherwise, I am going to live on the streets and be completely miserable. Um, and I won't be able to pursue any hobbies or passions or have any, like, income to, like, travel and do the stuff I want to, right? They understand the necessity, but the whole point of the dream job is like, yeah, but this is what I want to do if I have to do it. Um, that's kind of where the concept comes from. Like, if you gotta work, may as well enjoy it, right? Um, my mindset is also along the lines of it doesn't have to be like your dream job, but making the most of the job that you got, right? So those are the two kind of main camps when it comes to jobs and whatnot. You want to get you have to get your dream job. I don't think so. I don't think you have to get your dream job. You can pursue your passions and hobbies um, with a job that you're fine with, right? I mean, like someone who works at a desk all day, they may be all like, "Oh, well, I don't hate my job, but it's not like I would consider this my dream job." I think that's a completely valid kind of way of going about it. Um, Not everyone has to be their own boss because, well, someone's got to work for other people. It's kind of how businesses work. If everyone were their own boss, we would get nothing done ever. I mean, yeah, being a leader is a very valuable skill, but you can show leadership as an employee. Um, yeah, so that's just how I view things. Coming a little bit closer towards the end of this kind of podcast thing, me just this is essentially just another video of me rambling, but I also had some gameplay to put in the background. So just a little catch you up to speed if you weren't, if you were like playing this in the background or whatever. So basically, what I've done so far is I have completed the first dungeon, got the kinstone bag, got the bombs, got the bomb bag upgrade. I was given the task of repairing the Picori sword, which in this game is essentially like the Master Sword. The Master Sword does not appear in this game. So we were told that we need to get all these four elements that are going to be infused in the blade, and we have to find the smith, which we're talking to right now in this clip right here. So we put the sword down, and then he's going to rework the sword, and while he does that, we're going to get the last, well, not the last element, the second element in the game for the fire dungeon. Um, but yeah, so made some good progress in the game, made some good progress IRL, and yeah, overall I'm satisfied with that. And well, I hope to talk to you again. Ta ta for now.